Today we are diving into DataRaptor Transform. Whether you are aiming for the OmniStudio certifications or wanting to deepen your understanding of DataRaptor Transform, this video has you covered. Let's get started. First, we'll talk about what DataRaptor Transform is and its various use cases. Next, we'll have a quick look at DataRaptor Transform Designer. This will be followed by some hands-on exercises. During these exercises, we'll delve into the structure of JSON, which is incredibly important for the OmniStudio developer certification. After that, we'll demonstrate how we can integrate DataRaptor Transform with an OmniScript to create a PDF document. Finally, we'll wrap up with some hands-on challenges designed to reinforce and apply what you've learned. If you are not familiar with DataRaptors, I suggest you watching our episodes 5 to 9 of my OmniStudio playlist. These episodes cover basics that will make today's video easier to follow. You can find the link above and in the detailed description below. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's quickly look at what a DataRaptor Transform is and its use cases. So DataRaptor Transform is a spatial DataRaptor. It's unique in a way that it doesn't retrieve data from Salesforce or write data back into Salesforce. Its sole purpose is data transformation. It's usually used to transform a given JSON structure into another. And similar to DataRaptor Extract and DataRaptor Load, it supports formulas. It also has the ability to convert JSON into XML and vice versa. Like other DataRaptors, it can restructure input data, rename fields, and substitute field values. One key use case of DataRaptor Transform is the ability to convert data into formats such as PDF, DocuSign, or document template, which is a frequently encountered use case. Some example use cases which we'll cover shortly include converting a single item to a list with one item, convert a list of objects to a list of values, convert a list of objects into a multi-select item, convert single object data into multiple objects. And there are many more use cases that we will be exploring in this video, so make sure to stick around as this video will be very JSON focused, which is quite important if you are thinking about setting your OmniStudio developer certification. Let's now take a look at DataRaptor Transform Designer interface. Click on New. What we'll do here for this simple example is that we'll be looking at transforming license plate details. As always, it's good to have a good naming convention. In this case, I started with DR, transform TRN license plate details. For interface type, we'll go for transform. Into input type JSON, notice how there's XML and custom as well. And for the output type, notice that there are actually quite a few options: JSON, XML, PDF, DocuSign, document template, custom. We'll go over some of these in later part of the video and some in future videos. For now, we'll go with JSON. Click on Save. So the key difference between DataRaptor Transform Design interface and other DataRaptor type interfaces is that there's no option for you to select an object. And the reason for this, as mentioned earlier in the video, is that DataRaptor Transform doesn't extract from Salesforce or write into Salesforce. Hence, it doesn't need an option for you to select an object. In the Formula tab, it's same with other DataRaptor type interfaces. This is where you define any transformation you want to apply to the input data to generate the output data. Over here in the Transforms tab, this is similar to other DataRaptor type interfaces. This is where you map data from input to the output. It also supports the quick match function. In the Options tab, we've gone over most of these options in the previous videos. Over here, we'll go over it briefly. So time to load in minutes. If data caching is enabled, which is specified over here, this number determines how long data remains in the cache. The minimum value is 5. Salesforce platform cache type. This enables data caching. Set to session cache for data related to users and their login sessions. Set to org cache for all other types of data. Override target for no inputs. This is where if an input doesn't have a value, set the corresponding output value to null. Preview tab. This allows you to set up the input JSON data and see the DataRaptor transform responses. So what we want to achieve with this DataRaptor transform is that we want to convert this input JSON into this output JSON. Essentially converting a single item over here into a list with one item. What this DataRaptor transform will do is to change its JSON structure from an item into a list that's shown by an array in square brackets, and also changing the JSON node name from license into license list. So a practical example that illustrates this scenario would be, imagine you are developing an online service where users can input a license plate number to retrieve vehicle information such as owner's details and the car model. The form enabling users to input their license plate number is constructed using an OmniScript. However, when a user submits the license plate number, the OmniScript returns JSON data in a single item format, which is what we are seeing over here on the top. So here is where it gets tricky. The OmniScript needs to execute an HTTP callout to an external system to fetch the vehicle information. However, this external system expects data to be presented in a list format, which looks like this. So consequently, we must modify the JSON structure accordingly. This is precisely where the DataRaptor transform comes into play. Now let's go ahead and build this DataRaptor transform. Alright, let's go to the online editor, JSONlint, and start putting together our input JSON. Start by open and close curly brackets. And the node we are looking for is license. Open and close curly bracket. And the key and value pair will be plate number ABC123. Validate JSON. So this is all looking good. Copy paste this and put it in the preview tab. Let's now go back to the transformations tab and start mapping. So the first thing we need to do is to determine the input JSON path and the output JSON path. The input JSON path will be license and the output JSON path will be license list. And while we are doing this, it's good to pay attention as to what's happening in the JSON output as well. So if we put license in here and license list in the output JSON path, you see that this is not quite what we want because we don't see the array that we are expecting. And if we go to preview and execute, this is not quite as to what we want. So what we need to do to be able to change the structure so it includes an array is that we need to go back to the Transforms tab, and in the output data type, we need to select a list map. And notice how as soon as the list map is selected, we can see an array appearing in the current JSON output. So what a list map is that it basically allows us to consolidate individual items into a single list in the output. So if we go and hit preview again and execute, and now we're able to see the plate number, key, and value being stored in an array. And this is how you convert a single item to a list with one item in here. Let's now create another DataRaptor transform. In this example, imagine a scenario where users have filled in multiple license information, names, and emails on the website to enter a draw for winning prizes. And the system needs to obtain a list of their emails so that the system can email them collectively to acknowledge the participants. So essentially what we want to achieve in this example is we want to convert a list of objects into a list of values. So what does that actually mean? What I've got here is what will be coming from the OmniScript. So here we have the license node. Within the node, we have an array. Within the array, we have 3 license details. So each of these in JSON terms are an object. So 3 objects over here. And what we want to convert this to is a list of values with a JSON node called license email address, and inside the array it has the email values. So what this DataRaptor transform will need to be able to do is to basically extract the email attributes from the license node and put it into a list of email values. So the emails can be sent to the participants for acknowledgement that they've entered the prize draw. What we'll do first is to form the input JSON. Usually what you'll do is you'll copy paste this from an OmniScript. But in this case, because we haven't got an OmniScript, we need to form the input JSON ourselves to test our DataRaptor transform. So let's go to JSONLint and always start with open and close curly brackets. We'll work with the license node just like the previous example, and since we have multiple licenses, these items will be inside an array, and each license will be encapsulated in curly braces. So we'll start with plate number, ABC123, the next key and value pair will be name, Sam Thomas, and the email address on your license. We'll go with sam@gmail.com. And once this is done, to save a bit of time, we'll copy this twice. And we'll make up the other two as well. Call this person Andy. (084). We'll call this person Luke, and Luke@gmail.com, and validate JSON. So that all looks pretty good. We'll copy paste this and put it in our preview. So what we need to do next is to use formula to extract only the email attributes. So the way to do this is to use the colon syntax to directly reference the email attributes nested within the license array. So let's go to the formulas tab, and we'll need to get the license node, and this will be followed by a colon, and we'll specify the email attribute. So what this syntax allows you to do is that it basically retrieves the email attribute of each item within the license array. Now, by doing this, what we've got so far is actually the three email values, and we haven't got a JSON node specified yet. To specify a JSON node, we will use the formula result path. So let's go with license email address, since this is what we want in the end in terms of the JSON output, and we'll be using this JSON node, the content within this JSON node to send email address emails to these email addresses. So let's put this in, and if we go to preview, you'll notice that nothing actually happens. And the reason for that is the response actually comes from the output JSON path. So if we haven't specified anything in the mapping, nothing will actually appear in the response section. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the Transformers tab and map this out. So what we need to do is we need to get whatever comes out of the Formulas tab, which is license email address, as we've specified over here, into the input JSON. And in the output JSON path, we can actually name it exactly the same name, which is license email address as well. So what we are seeing over here is basically for the input JSON, we've got this big license JSON with 3 license details here with a lot of other information that we don't need. And this basically goes to the Formulas tab to be processed, and with only the emails attribute extracted. And the result of this is being put into the formula result path, and this is now getting passed to the Transforms tab. And from here, it's now being renamed into license email address, and since the name is the same, you wouldn't actually see a difference. So what I'll do to make this more easier to understand is I'll actually add formula over here, and I'll update this as well. And if I go to preview, you'll see that this is exactly what we're expecting. We are turning this into that, and we've extracted only the email attributes. So just to summarize again, the process starts from this input JSON. This gets processed by the formula over here, and the formula over here extracts only the email attributes in the license node, and the result of this formula manipulation is being stored into this license email address underscore formula JSON node, and from here it's being transformed and have the JSON node renamed from this to license email address, which is the JSON node that we want this to be named. And this is basically what we are seeing in the response. In this example, we'll demonstrate how to transform a list of objects into a multi-select item. So we are using the same DataRaptor transform and JSON dataset as the previous example. Our objective is to enhance this DataRaptor transform to also extract a list of names from the licenses. The names will be presented in a format suitable for judges selection, like this. So with a multi-select item, judges can effectively choose multiple winners. Keep in mind that in a multi-select item, values are separated by semicolons. So to achieve this, let's go back to the DataRaptor transform from the previous exercise. And what we'll do is we'll need to start by extracting names into an array like this first, and we'll modify the output data type to multi-select. So let's go to the formulas tab again. It'll basically be the same process as the previous example. So what we'll do is from the license node, we want to extract the name attributes. And for the formula result path, we'll name it license name underscore formula. And let's now move to the transforms mapping. Click on new mapping. And what we are doing here is we are basically directing the output from license name formula to the input JSON path. The result will then be stored in the output JSON path, which will name license name select. So initially, if we just execute this, we'll end up having another JSON node, which is license name select. But in here, these are still not multi-select items. So what we need to do is we'll need to go to the transforms tab and revisit the transform mapping for license name formula. And in the output data type, we'll update this to multi-select. And you'll notice that in the current JSON output, under the license name select attribute, it's now showing multi-select values, and these are separated by semicolons between each value. So upon making this change, and after we execute it, we can see that the current JSON output will reflect the names separated by semicolons. So this transformed data is now ready to be utilized in another OmniScript. Judges can now conveniently select names from this multi-select field. And don't worry if you don't understand a lot about OmniScript. We'll be going into deep dives for all the OmniScript functions in the future, so make sure to stay tuned. In this example, we'll be transforming string yes or no value into Boolean value, true or false. We'll modify the data set from previous examples by adding a new attribute called valid to indicate whether the license is valid or not. Converting this information into Boolean, true or false, will improve data processing efficiency, as Boolean data is easier to handle compared to string data. So let's create a new DataRaptor. We'll call this data transform license validation details. Interface type transform, leave rest the same. Click save. Over here in the preview tab, let's copy paste from the previous example. And what we'll do over here is for each object, we'll add an attribute called valid. For the first object, this will be yes. And remember to always add a comma. And we'll do this for the other two as well. We'll make the second one no. We'll format this into, we'll go to JSON lint to format this. And we'll copy paste this back here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go and map the fields. And since we are not changing the JSON node or any of the attribute label, we can actually keep the input JSON path and the output JSON path exactly the same. And the only thing that we need to pay special attention for is the valid attribute, as we need to convert string into Boolean, but we'll get into that in a bit. So let's start with our first attribute, plate number. License, plate number, and as I mentioned, since it's exactly the same, we'll just copy paste this in. Second one here, we want to go with name. Again, we'll copy paste this. Email. And the last one we need to map is valid. So if we don't do anything to the valid field over here to transform the string into Boolean, and if we go straight into preview, you'll notice that the input and output is exactly the same. So what we need to do to convert string yes and string no into Boolean true and falses, we need to do two things. So let's go to the Transforms tab and go to the mapping for the valid attribute. First thing we need to do is we need to specify the output type to Boolean. The second thing we need to do is we need to use the transform map value option to specify that yes should be transformed into true and no should be transformed to false. And what you'll notice in the current JSON output is that the valid attribute now doesn't have the quotation mark. Instead, is showing true and false. So if we go and preview again, you'll see that now the input is using string yes and no, and the output is true and false. In this example, we'll demonstrate how to transform data from a single object into multiple objects. Building upon previous scenarios, individuals notified of winning a prize need to provide their personal information for prize delivery. The organizer has provided a link to an Experience Cloud website featuring a form powered by OmniScript, allowing users to input their data details. So the form collects inputs such as first name, last name, email, company, website, and username. The JSON data from the OmniScript form resembles this JSON structure that we've got over here. So the aim of this DataRaptor transform is to split this provided attributes into multiple objects, such as account, contact, and user. Let's now go and create our new DataRaptor. This DataRaptor will cover DataRaptor transform, registration form details, interface type as transform, and leave rest the same. And now we'll go and prepare our JSON dataset from scratch. So our dataset will be coming from the OmniScript, and it'll look something like this. So always start with open and close curly braces, starting with first name. Going to pick Kobe. Last name Bryant. Email kobe@gmail.com. Company Lakers. Website Lakers.com, and the username kobe@lakers.com.productionprod, and validate JSON. I've got something missing. Missing a quotation mark. Validate. So this looks better now. We'll copy paste this and paste it in our input data set over here. So let's start mapping. What we'll do first is let's try get the. We'll worry about this account and contact structure in the end. We'll start with account name. Account name will come from actually the company field. So we'll go company, And what we want is account name. And we'll also be checking the current JSON output as we go, as there are quite a few fields. One thing I want to also mention is that the output JSON path and the input JSON path, none of these are actually relating to an actual Salesforce object in the org. It's only referencing the JSON data. So we can actually name this anything, but for this exercise, let's try keep it close to the object name that we have in Salesforce. So what this means is that after this DataRaptor transform, you'll get the JSON output path, which looks like this, and you'll need to have another DataRaptor load to create these records. So coming back to this, let's move on to the next attribute, which will be the website. Website, and I believe account has a website field as well, so we don't need to make changes like we did back here. Next one, we have contact, and we'll start with first name. First name, and we want to map this to the contact node. And actually, this is another reason why I'm keeping everything lowercase, so that we can know in a glance that these are not related to actual Salesforce field. Last name, and this is going to the contact node. And it's all coming along nicely. We also have the email field as well. And that's again going to the contact node. So now in the contact node we have email, last name, first name, account, yes, website name. And the user will start with the first name. And this needs to go to the user node. And we'll do this for last name as well. The user also needs email and username. Email. And username. And now we've got all this laid out. The next thing we need to do is, if we go and just execute now, this is not exactly the response we are looking for, as the contact JSON node should be associated with the account. So what we need to do to fix this is to go back to the mapping. And for every contact JSON node you can find, we need to put the account node in the front, so that whatever is in this contact node would go under the account. So yeah, like this. So now we've mapped the email field under the contact, and the contact, this particular mapping is not under the account. And we'll do it for the rest. We'll do it for first name as well. And what is left to do? And now it's just the last name that we need to do, which is this over here. Let's add the account node in front. So this is now close to, this is basically what we want. Use the user node, the account node. Under the account node, we have the contact node with the contact attributes, and the account node, the account attributes stay inside the account node. So if this is a bit challenging for you, I would encourage you to go back and watch the previous 3 episodes where I go over these in detail. So let's go and preview, execute, and now we can see that from the form which collects these 6 attributes or data, it's now being transformed into 3 different objects. We've got account, contact, and user, each of these with their respective attributes. So account, we have name and website. Contact, we have email, last name, and first name. And the contact node is within the account node, which is showing that parent-to-child relationship. And for the user node, we have email, username, last name, and first name. In this example, we'll illustrate how to convert a list of items into a single object. Our objective is to create a DataRaptor transform to allocate the first value in the array into the contact's first name, the second value into last name, and the third value into the contact's email. So above here, this is the input data coming from a legacy system, and down here is the desired JSON output. So we'll likely encounter such scenario where we need to deal with an external system that might have technical constraints and only allows the system to submit the form data in an array format as opposed to individual object with key and value pairs. So let's now create a new DataRaptor transform. We'll call this one DataRaptor transform legacy contact details. Interface type is transform, and save. What we'll do first is that put together our input data set. We'll go to JSON lint, and what we want to do is again start with open and close curly braces. The node that's coming from this legacy system is fields, and the data comes in an array format. First is Kobe, Bryant, and the email kobe@gmail.com. Validate JSON, right, missing a quotation mark. Validate again. This looks better. Copy paste this into the input. So since accessing index values in an array isn't supported in the transforms tab, we'll need to utilize formulas to achieve this. So remember that index actually starts from 1 in OmniStudio, and that's quite different from Apex or most programming languages where the index starts from 0. So this here is index 1, 2, and 3 in OmniStudio. So this is quite a popular exam topic, so make sure you remember this and practice a lot on how to accessing array values in OmniStudio. So let's now go back to the Formulas tab and start mapping. So what we need to do first is we need to extract these individual items in the array. We'll start by extracting the first one here. So we'll start with fields, and in OmniStudio, the way to access an array is this pipe symbol, and we need to specify the location of the item, which is 1. And after applying this formula, we'll store the result of this in first name, and we'll add formula here so that it's quite clear. Next thing we'll need to do is we'll now grab the second position here, which is the last name, and we'll do the same here as well. We'll put this under the last name formula JSON, and the third name is the email. We'll store this in the email formula result path. Now let's start mapping. So let's go to the Transforms tab. So what we'll do is we'll basically be directing outputs from these 3 JSON nodes into the JSON path, and then we're going to map the input JSON path with the output JSON path so that we can get to a result where we have a context node followed by its individual attributes. So let's start the process. We'll start with first name, and what we want is we want to have the contact node in front, followed by first name. And it's always good to look at the current JSON output, making sure we're on the right track. Now we'll do this for last name. Again, this will be under the contact node. And finally, the email. And this is all looking as what we're expecting. Let's go to the preview tab, execute, and this is exactly what we want. So essentially we've designed a DataRaptor that's able to transform this into this. So to quickly recap what we've just done here, we've been given a list of items from a legacy registration system where the items are in the form of an array. And this is not very user-friendly, so we've designed a DataRaptor transform to basically extract each individual item, and we put that into 3 JSON nodes: first name formula, last name formula, and email formula. And from here, we've taken this, we've put it into the input JSON path, and we've mapped it against the output JSON path where it contains the desired JSON structure. And as a result, we have this nice structure where it has a JSON node followed by the key and value pairs. In this example, we are dealing with something that's completely opposite to the previous example. So what we are dealing with is a transition from a registration form in OmniStudio to a legacy system that exclusively accepts array values. So essentially, we are converting the structure of the data to suit the requirement of the legacy system. So what we are looking at is actually this. So from the registration system, we have the node and key and value pair. But the legacy system that we need to talk to only accepts array values. So this example will be about designing a DataRaptor that will allow us to do this. So the scenario would be that let's consider an example where our OmniScript form collects various details about the first name, last name, email from the user. However, the legacy system we need to integrate with expects data in an array format rather than the structure format typically generated by the OmniScript. And this is the array format that we are talking about. Let's now go back to the OmniScript from the previous example. What we'll do is we'll clean this out, and the input will actually become the output from the previous example. And we'll just delete off these mapping so we can start fresh. And we'll do a refresh as well to clear out the response. That all looks pretty clean, and we'll also need to delete these formula as well. So basically what we need to do here is this transformation process basically involves converting the structured object representing the user's details into an array of items. Each item in the array corresponds to a specific attribute from the form. Let's now go to the Transforms tab. Different to the input JSON path, the output JSON path actually supports indexing values in an array. So what we need to do is we'll basically make reference to this attribute and put it into the number one position of the fields array. So that's start the process. Contact, and we want to get the first name value, and we'll map this into fields, and you'll be position number one, and that's shown in the pipe symbol followed by the location. So notice in the current JSON path, this looks a bit weird, but when it goes to the preview, you'll make a lot more sense. So we'll do the same for the rest. Contact, last name, and we want to put this into the second position of the array. We'll do this for the email as well. Contact, email, and this needs to go to the third position of the array. And if we go to preview, we'll see that now we have a fields node with 3 values in the array. In this example, we'll be transforming the JSON input into an XML output. For the DataRaptor interface name, we'll go with dr_transform JSON to XML. Interface type is transform. Input will keep it as JSON, and for output, we'll go with XML. So you might ask, when do we actually need to do this? So transforming JSON input into XML output in a DataRaptor transform might become necessary when the downstream system or service that consumes the data specifically requires the XML format. So it can be from legacy system integration or specific API requirements. So what we'll do here is we'll actually use the previous examples input JSON, put in the preview tab first, and in the transforms tab, it's actually quite simple. What we want is we want a one-to-one conversion from JSON to XML, keeping all the structures the same. So for input JSON, we want the context, and for XML output path, we want the context as well. And when we look at the current XML output, we can actually see an example of this. So we go to preview and execute. And there you go. We have the contact followed by the first name, last name, and email. Now that we've covered DataRaptor transforms extensively, let's explore their integration with other OmniStudio tools like OmniScript and document generation. In this example, we'll discuss how DataRaptor transform can collaborate with the OmniStudio and document generation tool to produce PDF documents or Word documents. So this is only a brief overview focusing on the role of DataRaptor transform in the document generation process. I plan to create a more in-depth video in the future covering document generation. If you are interested in this topic, please leave a comment below to help me prioritize upcoming videos. So you might wonder, where does DataRaptor transform play in all of this? Let's go to the document template designer, and the one that we were using in the OmniScript is this inspection report document template. And this template file is what we've looked at previously. It's a file with merge fields, account, inspection ID, start time, end time, and about assessment information and violation as well. So how this works is, this is a template, and I won't go into these details, but the two that we'll focus on is the mapping DataRaptor bundle and the data extract DataRaptor bundle. So let's talk about this one first. So this is basically a DataRaptor extract that will extract the data from this visit record, and they will basically give you all the results of the assessment. So let's go back to this document template and have a look at this DataRaptor extract. And I've got it open up here. So that's a DataRaptor extract. So it basically extract this visit object, and then there's a bunch of child objects that it's extracting as well. And over here, there's a bunch of formulas and outputs that will get all the field names. So once we've extracted all the data that we need, we then map it to the Word document using this DataRaptor transform, LPI transform visit data for document. And this is where the DataRaptor transform plays a role in this document generation process. So what we can see here is that on the output JSON path, so the input JSON path will be coming from that DataRaptor extract that we just looked at, which is this. So you can see account name, visit name, account name, visit name, and a bunch of fields. They are all matching with this. So this output JSON path is basically matching up with the merge fields on this document. So account name, assessment name, another example, regulation code name, violation. I won't go into this in detail, but the way that this is set up basically allows you to loop through the child records. So there you go. This is basically how DataRaptor transform plays in part in terms of document generation. So let's start by having a look at the end product, which is a PDF document. So this PDF document shows an inspection report. This report is from an inspection conducted by an inspector and at a business to ensure its compliance. So the data from this report actually originates from a Salesforce record. So over here, we have the inspection report, the account, inspection ID, start, end time, and details about the assessment information, type of assessment, the name of the assessment indicators, and also the result of the assessment. So if we go into this record, this is where the PDF is based on. And if we look at the details over here, these are all the tasks, and these are essentially what's being mapped to here. So for example, if we look at establishment, which is this type over here, there are a bunch of assessment indicators. So these are basically things that the inspectors will have to check. And if we look at this indicator over here, this is about material, and we can see this question over here as well. Now, without getting too much into the details, let's go back to this inspection record. So basically what we are doing is we are generating a PDF based on a bunch of fields and a bunch of related records. So let's have a look at how this was actually achieved. So this was actually achieved using this OmniScript. So we'll go over this quickly. This OmniScript basically allows you to enter an object ID, which is this ID over here, and it allows you to select a template type, so either Word or PowerPoint. After this step, it basically calls a DataRaptor extract that extracts the document template type. I'll get into this in a bit. So this is where you have the document template set up, and the document template, the Word template, basically looks like this. And you'll see all these merge fields on here. And this is where DataRaptor transform comes in. You basically extracted all the details about the records that you are having a look at, and you are using DataRaptor transform to map these fields into these merge fields. So that's how, in a nutshell, how PDFs are being generated. But we'll take a look at the document template shortly. So going back to the designer. So now we've basically got the document template details. It allows us to pick a template. This is a custom Lightning component, but we'll be able to see this shortly. But this is basically getting data from some the template details that's being extracted over here. This allows us to set some values about template type and the templates that we've selected. And these are all the options that we have in generating this document. I won't go too much into detail. I'll follow this up in the future video. And this here gets a few options. And the last step allows you to generate the document. And this is another custom Lightning Web component that will actually display the PDF document. So let's give this a go. We'll hit the preview button. We'll copy the ID over here as well. and we'll wait for this to load. Object ID will go for this. Template type will go with a Word document because this is what we've got in the system. Click on next. It's an inspection report, and this is where you configure different formats, but in this case we'll go with Word since this is what we've attached. Click on next, and this is where the documents will be generated, and it takes a while for this to load. And there you go. Once it's loaded, it allows us to download as Word or PDF, and it allows us to preview over here as well. So this basically displays all the details about the inspection and its child records as well. And down here we can email ourselves either PDF, Word, or PowerPoint. So as promised, I've prepared 8 challenges to test your understanding of DataRaptor transform. To tackle these exercises effectively, I encourage you to manually type the input JSON into JSONlint and copy paste that back to the DataRaptor preview section. This will help you to become familiar with JSON syntax, which is very important if you are aiming for the OmniStudio developer certification. I've structured the challenges to align with examples we've covered, so if you encounter any difficulties, you can always refer back to the corresponding example in the video for a review. Remember, if you have any questions or need further clarification, feel free to drop them in the comments below. So let's dive into these challenges together. Challenge number 1, design a DataRaptor that takes the input JSON and transform to the output JSON on the right. So this is about converting a single item to a list with one item. Challenge number 2, again from the left, transform this to the right. And this one is about converting a list of objects to a list of values. I will encourage you to take a screenshot as well, as I'll be going quite fast in these challenges. Challenge number 3. What we want to do in this one is we want to convert a list of objects to a multi-select item. Challenge number 4. We want to design a DataRaptor transform that can convert the yes and no string into Boolean values, true and false. Number 5, this is a more challenging one. We want to transform a single object data into multiple objects. And going back to here as well, I know I haven't put the contact inside the account, so if you want to go an extra mile, you can associate the contact with the account. So put in this JSON inside the account JSON node. Number 6, we want to be transforming a list of items into a single object. Challenge number 7, doing the opposite. We want to transform the object to list of items using static syntax. Challenge number 8, this one here, we want to transform this input JSON into output XML. So there we go. Good luck. To recap, DataRaptor transform is unique among DataRaptor types as it doesn't interact with Salesforce for data extraction, updating, or insertion. Its primary function is data transformation. It can convert between formats such as XML and JSON. It also supports formula and has the capability to convert data into formats like PDF, DocuSign, or document templates. I hope you are enjoying the tutorial. I love creating these for you, but we need your support. Please hit that subscribe button. It does more than I can say. Every subscription helps us grow and keep these tutorials for free for everyone. Thanks for watching and thanks for your support.